Welcome. You're listening to The Aligned Self, Conversations in Creating a Conscious and Abundant Life. This is Daniel Denovi. I'll be your guide and host. Let's see just where we can take this. Hello, friend, and welcome back to the conversation. Today I want to talk about self-sabotage. It's been coming up a lot, and I know that I've actually posted stuff asking, do you suffer from self-sabotage? Because that's where people live. I ask the question because people can identify with it, but I want to offer up my perspective on it, and I did touch upon this in a previous episode, but I'm going to drill a little deeper on this. So this perspective comes directly from my work over the years with subpersonalities. And I have said in previous episodes that I'm not really a fan of shadow work, but only by name because shadow work is essentially working with the subpersonalities. Now, if you haven't listened to the previous episodes, subpersonalities are those aspects of our persona that have been splintered off or developed at different times, actually created at different times in response to a trauma, a challenge, some aspect of our experience that at the time we were not capable of handling given our current persona. So many times there's an aspect that splits off, actually creates a different persona with its own belief system, set of beliefs, and strategy on how to handle that challenge, how to defend itself. And so when people experience the quote-unquote self-sabotage, it's actually an aspect of ourselves that was created at an earlier time in life that is in conflict, has a different agenda, with some intention that you're throwing out in the world. Now, I need to draw our attention to the aspect or the subpersonality that is actually creating the intention to begin with. For most people, that subpersonality that creates the intentions that does a lot of the operating in the world, and it is a subpersonality. It's not typically a fully formed aspect of yourself because you have these other parts that come up from time to time that are in conflict with your agenda. And that's because you're not aligned. Not all parts of you are aligned. And that goes right down to the title of this podcast and a lot of the work I do with self-identity. It's all about aligning all our different parts, our beliefs, our mission, to where we are a congruent expression in the world. And so this persona, this aspect of yourself that you more than likely think is your identity, it is only one aspect of many different aspects, different personalities that you have. And the misperception is that the one that creates the intention is the one that's really in charge. And why would it be a misperception? Well, if that part was really in charge, it would override any other part. It wouldn't be no problem. Self-sabotage wouldn't be a thing. You would just create an intention, and then all the other parts would just have to march in alignment. But if you've been alive for any length of time, you've experienced the fact that there are other aspects that are more powerful than our persona, this public personality that we tend to project out into the world. Now, you can call this the mask or the facade that we present to satisfy the demands of the situation or the environment, but it doesn't represent the inner personality of the individual. That's all these other subpersonalities, all these other parts. And so hopefully in explaining this, I get you to the first step of awareness that the you that you think is in charge isn't really in charge. It may be one of the more dominant subpersonalities, but it is not the dominant subpersonality. And so the conclusion that you can come to is that who you think you are is actually a conglomeration of many different aspects, many different subpersonalities that come into action at different times. And you may be able to experience this or have an awareness of it because you'll have a mood change, a shift. You'll respond to problems completely different than you normally do, or you may even have urgings and cravings or just want to give up and stay in bed, not really knowing why you're engaging in this other behavior, this other activity. because it doesn't feel like it's in alignment with what you think you really want. Now let's address the term self-sabotage. If you really think about it, what intelligent designer, what intelligent creator would actually design an organism, design a mind, a biocomputer with a default self-sabotaging program? Are you kidding me? That just doesn't make sense to me. Because every aspect of your being is oriented towards either survival or growth. But when we use the term self-sabotage, we're actually implying that there is an aspect of us that is out to get us, wants us to fail, wants us to not succeed. Which, in my work with subpersonalities, I find that each subpersonality is actually oriented towards your survival, your growth, your joy, and your happiness. It wants you to be satisfied. It wants you to be successful. It's just that there are different parts with different strategies on how to go about that. And so when we experience a conflict, and that's what I think more or less this is, not necessarily self-sabotage, it's only that one subpersonality that's calling it self-sabotage. It's not getting to do what it wants to do. And so rather than working with all these different parts, we try and force it to do our will, force it to, to get along with the program. And if that part has been forced before, over and over again, sooner or later it's going to put its foot down and you will not be able to move forward. What we really need to do is have a conversation with this inner part, find out what the intention is, how can we satisfy that intention, and merge it with the overall plan. Will it get on board? And I get that idea may sound a little silly, especially when people are used to terms like willpower and self-discipline. That's basically making yourself do something that certain parts of you don't want to do. What would it be like if we could get all the subpersonalities to be integrated and work together towards a common goal? Then discipline and willpower would not be needed. You could actually move through life with a sense of grace and ease and a sense of enjoyment. Your mood or your emotions would be more even-keeled across the board, resolving inner conflicts when they arise very quickly and easily because you've established rapport. Everyone's playing the same game. But most people don't have that experience. Most people have these subpersonalities that are born at different times, splintered off of our self-concept at various times in our life, and they have adopted a set strategy. They basically have one way of going about things. They have a predictable response, predictable behavior that operates from a set belief system about a potential threat or potential situation, danger. That's the same as threat, I guess. But they see something, some challenge out there, and there is a predictable set strategy that they will enact, that subpersonality will enact and move forward with, overriding other program because that aspect, that subpersonality feels threatened in some way. And so rather than self-sabotage, it's actually a default program to protect you. It operates as one of the new safety features you can find on some cars. When it detects a potential collision, it automatically pumps the brakes. No matter what you want to do, it'll hit the brakes. Because it operates from a safety protocol. It has a set pattern. It detects a potential collision and it hits the brakes. You don't say that that car is self-sabotaging your efforts to move forward down the road. No, from its perspective, it saw a threat and it did whatever it took in order to stop you. And so, put another way, this part that one part of you calls self-sabotaging is actually benevolent in nature. It has your best interest at heart. It just may not be up to date with the program. It may not be up to date with some of the other parts. It still might be 8 years old. It still might be 6 years old or a 12-year-old. Because when these parts are born, they are frozen in time with that perspective of what you had at the time it was born. And in that perspective, self-sabotaging is too harsh a phrase. It's misunderstood. It's not with the program. It has a different agenda. We have to work it out. We have to talk it through. We have to become the aligned self. The other fallout we experience isn't readily apparent to us because we think we're in charge. We think we're actually putting our finger on the problem. But when we use the term self-sabotage as part of our system, it implies that there is a part of us that it's out to get us. We're broken in some way. We're defective in some way because I can't get these other parts to go along with my intention to get on board. Why can't we all play? Why can't we all go towards where I want to go? Because some of the people in the car don't want to go where you want to go, or they're afraid to go where you want to go. Remember, there is the illusion that this dominant subpersonality, which thinks it's in charge, thinks it's the one setting the intentions, that it's right. These other subpersonalities may be aware of some potential pitfalls that this other personality that's created the intention is not aware of. Maybe it's not necessarily aligned with your values. Maybe there's some other internal conflicts that haven't been resolved. And what may happen is that part, that subpersonality that's trying to protect you, may just keep you in bed. It may make you get sick, take you out of the action so you can't move forward. Or it may distract you on TikTok or Facebook for hours at a time. Before you know it, you've wasted the whole day and you haven't moved forward, which, according to this other part, which trying to protect you, it did a good job. But you, this dominant subpersonality that set the intention to begin with, looks inside and says, there's a part in here that's totally irresponsible. Are they? I don't know. Without talking to that part, without considering what the intentions are, we just don't know. Part of us is actually being a bully. Part of us, this part that set the intention, referring to other parts of us that are lazy, self-sabotaging, distracted, stupid, it's rude because you're not considering, you're not actually giving yourself a listen. You're not hearing yourself. You're not listening to all parts of you. And that may have worked for a period of time. You may have more than likely, time and time again, been able to override these other parts. But it only worked so long. And so if you find yourself more often than not getting distracted, getting delayed, not getting with the program, actually not moving ahead with the things that you want to do, actually experiencing self-sabotage or an alternative strategy in place, misalignment, then you may have just tried to shut down that part one too many times. Because obviously, if it's getting in the way, if it's stopping you, it's a lot more powerful than this persona that says it's in charge. The solution to the problem is not the vanquishing of these parts. It's updating them. It's listening to them. It's having all parts of you work together as an integrated, congruent expression in the world. You see, if all parts of you are congruent, if all parts of you are on board, that is so powerful. You'll get 10 times the work done with a fraction of the effort, and you'll actually enjoy yourself. And so the key is integration. The key is alignment. This integration of the subpersonalities is one aspect, one dimension, one distinction in the matrix of self-identity. But it is a key distinction. It is a key component. When the subpersonalities are aligned, everything becomes easier. So all this description in this episode explains why I may say the term self-sabotage, but I don't really believe in it. It also explains why I don't use the term shadow work or shadow aspects, even though some of these subpersonalities have been pushed into the shadows. To me, the term shadow aspects implies that there's an aspect of us that is less than desirable. I see all our subpersonalities, all aspects of us, as desirable, to be integrated into the whole. And many of these subpersonalities, once they're brought home, brought to the mothership, actually morph and integrate, and they're no longer the same aspect that they once were. They may bring up the concerns that were generated at an earlier time, but they are more mature. They're more effective. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one to integrate your subpersonalities back into the whole so you can be a congruent, aligned expression in the world, I'm still accepting people at a reduced rate to take part in my case study program as I research for my book on subpersonalities. I originally thought I would limit it to 6 case studies, but I've been having so much fun with it and getting so much progress that I've opened it up to even more. I figured you can't have too many case studies for a book, right? Because what I'm finding is that each and every one of you has a different aspect, different approach, different concerns, and I think it's going to be a more effective book the more people I work with and document the process. So if you'd like to eliminate this idea of self-sabotage, email me at support@danovi.com. Support@danovi.com and explain to me why you want to take part in the program, and we'll schedule a call. So if the idea interests you at all, I suggest you get on board because this reduced rate program may end at any time. And there is the fact that I can only work with so many people and still get my other work done. So again, support@danovi.com, or you can go to yesdaniel.com and use the contact form to deliver a message to me. That's it for this episode. Hopefully, I've left you with a little bit more understanding than questions. Sometimes I just want to leave you with the questions, but I wanted to give you a little bit more of an understanding. Hopefully, I achieve that. Until next time, this is your friend and host, Daniel Danovi, urging you to follow your bliss. Live your life from inner signals. Be inner directed as you engage in the epic adventure.